بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وسلم على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept everyone's efforts in participating in the best action. خيركم من تعلم القرآن وعلمه. According to the hadith, the best ones amongst you are those who learn the Quran and teach the Quran. Inshallah, we learn and teach in our communities, our children and families, this treasure from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and be amongst the best khayrukum, the best ones. So inshallah, we follow that, and learning is beyond simply reading. There was, and still there is an emphasis on recitation of the Quran, teaching children how to recite, teaching children the makharij, the pronunciation, and tajweed. But all of that is the khushu', we call it. It's the outer layers. It's the shell and the peel. Qashr also refers to the peel. You know, the fruits have some sort of a peel. So you got to take that peel out to get into the fruit. So the peel, it has its significance and it has its, it plays its role, but it's only to protect the actual fruit. So perhaps those efforts of teaching and learning how to recite and how to beautify the recitation with the correct pronunciation and the proper tajweed, all of this is to continue to be in the form of learning Quran, but it's to lead us to the next level, which is to reflect on the ayat of the Holy Quran. Quran often reminds us of tadabbur, أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ. Inshallah, if we can have somebody recite. Yes, of course. Ayat 5 and 6, I guess.
This is where I wanted to go.
Is it live?
Sorry, here. I wanted to go.
It's alive?
No. Oh, they have a. I'm not sure. بسم الله. هو الذي جعل الشمس ضياء.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. هو الذي جعل الشمس ضياء والقمر نورا وقدره منازل لتعلموا عدد السنين والحساب ما خلق الله ذلك إلا بالحق يفصل الآيات لقوم يعلمون إن في اختلاف الليل والنهار وما خلق الله في السماوات والأرض لآيات لقوم يتقون.
اللهم صل على محمد. A quick recap. Surah Yunus, which is one of the surahs that are revealed in Mecca, considered Makkiyah. By the way, it's important to keep in mind whatever was revealed before the Hijrah is considered Makki, whether it was revealed in Mecca or in other journeys of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. As long as it was revelation before the migration, it is considered Makki, and whatever was revealed after the migration, after the Hijrah, it is considered Madani, even if it was revealed in Mecca. So for instance, after they migrated to Medina, Quran was revealed while the Prophet sometimes would be in journeys outside of Medina or even in Mecca. Even in that case, it is considered Madani. And so the reference is the before and after Hijrah, or the distinction is before and after Hijrah for Makki and Madani, not necessarily the city that it was revealed in. So Surah Yunus was before Hijrah, in other words, Makkiyah, and therefore similar to the surahs that were revealed before Hijrah, there was a lot of reference to the Quran itself being revelation, a revelation from the Almighty God, from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the possibility of the revelation, the message of Rasulullah. So, because if we confirm that Quran is a message is a revelation from God, you automatically confirm the message of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that he is the messenger from God. And also reference to the resurrection. Quite often in these chapters, references to the resurrection. And one of the also very common concepts and principles that were the core or the ayat in prior to Hijrah revolved around was the concept of Tawheed, the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And therefore, you'll find that repeated again and again in different ways to confirm the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not just as the one creator, but the one who is also the maintainer, the one who is continuously maintaining and controlling, in fact, everything, all the creation, the universe, and what he has created. So, and those, by the way, those were also used as a proof of the creator and the creation were also used as a proof of the Quran being a message from God. Those references were also a proof of the Quran being a message from God. The fact, on the one hand, the fact that it is telling us of all these things that God has created and the details of it, and we'll come to the term that is used, يُفَصِّلُ الْآيَاتِ, we'll come to that. So he's using those tafseer, which is to basically break things down into its basically smaller concepts, and so explaining them, completely expanding on them and explaining them and so on. So all of that is part of the proof of the fact that this Quran is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Also the fact that he created all those things, the entire universe, revealing a book is not going to be something difficult for the creator. And so if we confirm that he is Al-Khaliq Al-Alim, he is the creator who is the all-knowing, therefore revelation of the Quran becomes an easy task. Also, it proves the resurrection. So you'll see that it's all intertwined somehow with each other. The ayat of the surah also, although sometimes each ayah, and this is the same with pretty much all the chapters or all the surahs in the Holy Quran. In fact, it is the same with all the Holy Quran, that they enter into each other. The ayat are intertwined in a way that one introduces the other, they are related to each other in one way or another. Although there are some places that you'll find a new topic being introduced, it is related in a way. There is some sort of a relationship between the introduction of the new topic and the previous topics or the previous ayat and stories and so on. In fact, we can see that even our mufassirin, they see that even in the flow of the chapters of the Holy Quran. So for instance, when we come to Surah, a very simple and very basic and very clear example is from Surah Al-Hamd to Surah Al-Baqarah. So in Surah Al-Hamd, which is the Fatiha, the opening, the start is with the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and acknowledging his the fact that he is the one who is the creator and he is the maintainer, Rabbul Alameen. Alhamdulillah as the creator and the Rabb as the maintainer. The Rabb is the nourisher, the one who maintains, and so on. And so eventually we're asking, Ihdina as-sirat al-mustaqim, and some elaboration in terms of which one, who are the ones on the sirat al-mustaqim. Then in Surah Al-Baqarah, the response comes, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. We ask for Ihdina, the Huda is in the Quran. You say, Ihdina as-sirat al-mustaqim, Huda is in the Holy Quran. The Hidayah, the guidance is in the Holy Quran. So this is an example of the relationship that is there between the chapters even of the Holy Quran. So here you'll find the same thing within the ayat. For example, we finished the ayah that reminds us of resurrection. Although that ayah, so ayah number 3 had reference to the creation. Okay? Ayah number 3 has some reference to the creation. So Muhammad Ali, what did the ayah number 3 have reference to? The creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you have a Quran, then you can see what it has a reference to. Next week, inshallah, we'll have a quiz. So the more you focus here, the better. Ahsan, thank you. While they get ready, inshallah, you can say salawat. So we go back a little bit and we look at ayah number 3. There is reference to the creation, the creator, inna rabbakum Allahu alladhi khalaqa as-samawati wal ard, and so on. Then the next ayah, number 4, ilayhi marji'ukum jami'a. To him is your return, all of you. Okay, and we went through those ayat in a little bit of detail. So reference to resurrection. Now, first one reference to creation, the next one reference to resurrection. Relationship, very important. You'll find that the first one gives the reference to creation, and therefore it is easy to recreate what you have already created. He is the one who already created you. So to bring you back into existence or into life is not difficult. إِنَّهُ يَبْدَأُ الْخَلْقَ ثُمَّ يُعِيدُ. And he gives that reference there, that he begins the creation in the first place, and then he brings it back. ثُمَّ يُعِيدُ. The similar in Surah Yasin, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَضَرَبَ لَنَا مَثَلًا وَنَسِيَ خَلْقَهُ. He gave the answer already, subhanallah. The answer to those who are saying, how could we be recreated? قال من يحيي العظام وهي رميم. The answer was already in there. وضرب لنا مثلا ونسي خلقه. Forgetting his own creation, he's saying, how could the bones be resurrected? Forgetting the first creation. ونسي خلقه. If he just paid attention to the fact that he already was, and the answer came again, but already a hint was given. And then قُلْ يُحْيِيهَا الَّذِي أَنْشَأَهَا أَوَّلَ مَرَّةٍ. Say the one who started it in the first place, brought it into existence from nothing in the first place, is the one who resurrects it. But the reference was already there when he says وَنَسِيَ خَلْقَهُ. He forgot his own creation when he asked that question, مَن يُحْيِي الْعِظَامَ وَهِيَ رَمِيمٌ. So you'll find that there is definitely a relationship between the creation and resurrection. This is why in ayah 3 he says, Inna rabbakum Allahu alladhi khalaqa. And then in ayah 4 he, ilayhi marja'ukum jami'an innahu yabda'u al-khalqa thumma yu'idu. Now back again to the creator and his creation, this time more so for the concept of tawheed. We said there is, it's about the message, it's about the Quran being a message from God. It's about the resurrection, the fact that this world is not the end, we are going to be resurrected. And it is also about the tawheed of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. this time the reference to the creation and the universe and the systems around us, so that we are reminded of the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the tawheed of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and also at the same time further confirmation of the creation, therefore resurrection, the possibility of resurrection. So here he says, هو الذي جعل الشمس ضياءً. هو, it's very important to keep in mind, although huwa is what we call just as a pronoun, okay, referring to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. However, it is one of the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, I want to just make this point very clear. The names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when it comes to the language part of it, is only for the possibility of understanding and then continuing to teach one another. He says, the pen is for what? خلق الإنسان علمه البيان. He created insan and taught him to speak. Now the speech is there to translate our thoughts. Speech is not, in itself, the speech is not the significant part. It's those sounds that we make. It gains significance because of its meaning. Where is the meaning? The meaning is not simply those shapes. Yeah. The meaning is not the sounds. The meaning is what we understand. We have made an agreement that this is the sound, and put it together with this sound, it means whatever it means in our mind. So the meaning is what is in our mind, what they say, the philosophers, that it is the image that you have in your mind. So that's immediately when you are reading something or hearing something, an image comes to your mind of that. The rasm al-dhihni, that in your mind, in your dhihn, some sort of an image comes of whatever you are reading. Now, when it comes to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, can we think of something, an image, a shape, something in our minds? No, there's nothing. We cannot do that. And this is why, although Allah or Al-Ilah combined into Ismul Jalala, the God, refers to the Creator, God, the one and only, and it is one of the most beautiful names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that they say, إِسْتَأْثَرَهُ لِنَفْسِهِ. It is only for him. Nobody has ever been referred to. There are people who were referred to as Rabb, or in English say God, or Khuda. Things like that. Rabbul Bayt is there, the Lord of the house. But Allah is never given to anybody. Some people may be given the title Rahman, for example, or somebody may call his child, but nobody has ever, and nobody would use the name of Allah. Does that mean that that's the only reference, or the reference, the best reference? Not necessarily. Huwa is a reminder of the fact that you cannot even understand him. So that don't get stuck on the name. Don't get stuck on the letters, the shape. They become holy because they are referring to Huwa, to him. Allah is important because it's referring to him. Don't get stuck on that. So Huwa, which is not even in itself, you cannot even say it's a noun. Huwa is not even a noun. It's not a verb, obviously, but it's not even a noun. Huwa is not a noun, but it has such a significance that he says, قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ. That so much significance, it becomes a dhikr. It is a dua in itself. There's a dhikr. Imam Ali alayhi salam, he said, I was taught this dhikr. He says, I was taught this dua on the night, on the evening of the Battle of Badr. Ya huwa by Jibreel. So now this is an amazing part. Imam Ali alayhi salam taught by Jibreel this special dua. So he recognizes, obviously, Jibreel for those who don't understand the status of Ahlul Bayt. So the Imam says he taught him, Ya huwa, ya man la huwa, illa huwa. Or Ya hu, ya man la huwa, illa hu. Because when you don't continue, the fatha goes, so it becomes hu. Ya hu, ya man la huwa, illa hu. So this is one of the adhkar and du'as taught by Ahlul Bayt, by Amir al-Mu'mineen salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayh. Such a strong Allahumma salli ala. It's a very strong dhikr and very strong reference. So it's not a noun, but it's a name of the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala referring to him. He says, Huwa, referring to him. Huwa alladhi ja'ala ash-shamsa diya'an wal-qamara nura. He is the one who made the sun as a source of light. Diya, some say it is referring to a light that is strong versus nur, a light that is weaker. However, others suggest that diya is referring to the light that is lit up from itself. It has a source itself, whereas the other one being a reflection of another light. So when you see light outside, you say there's nur. It's light, there's light outside, there's nur. But that is not because the garden outside is giving light. There's no light given from the garden itself. It's reflecting the sun, the light of the sun. Yeah? So similarly, the qamar is not the moon is not a source of light in itself. It is simply reflecting the light from the sun. And therefore, he says, he made the sun as the source of light, a light lit by itself, and made the qamar as a reflection of light. It has light, but it's not from itself. وَالْقَمَرَ نُورًا. And then he says, وَقَدَّرَهُ مَنَازِلَ. Remember, all these things are facts, scientific facts that back then they had very little knowledge of, if any. And if we go through the Holy Quran and some of the scientific facts that are there in the Holy Quran, clearly stated there, we will realize another level of the miracle of the Holy Quran. The fact that it could talk about things that there was no way of people at that time knowing those facts. So he says, وَالْقَمَرَ نُورًا وَقَدَّرَهُ مَنَازِلًا. He decreed that the moon has stages. Manzil is like a station. In a journey, the manazil are the places where you stop, you get off your, comes from nazala. Nazala is to get down from your carriage, from your horse, from your car, whatever it may be. So you get down, or from the camel if you wish, a higher nuzul. So that coming down to a station, this is why they are referred to as a manzil. Okay, even the house where we reside is referred to as manzil, and it's a beautiful reflection or reference which should be reflected on, that your houses are only stations. Yeah, the houses that you make and beautify and so on, they're only stations. They're not, nobody's gonna live in those houses forever. Yeah, we live in them for a while and then somebody else lives in them, whether we travel somewhere else or we travel to a different world altogether. Either way, sooner or later, we would be leaving our homes, and therefore it's a manzil. So manzil comes from coming down to a journey. This is why in even the stations of our spiritual journey, or the journey of life, the real life, the continuous life, not just life in this dunya, not hayat dunya. It has stations referred to as manazil. For instance, Shaykh Abbas al-Qummi, when he writes a book about the journey of Barzakh and Qiyamah and so on, he refers to it as manazilul akhirah. These are the stations that you go through. You know, you get down, another station, another stop in your way, and then you continue. So وَقَدَّرَهُ مَنَازِلًا. The moon is also decreed to have stations. And so what is the purpose of it? لِتَعْلَمُوا عَدَدَ السِّنِينَ وَالْحِسَابِ. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't just create and isn't just maintaining. He also put all the systems there for us to live our lives with a proper order, in a proper order, with proper organization. Everything is there for us, set up from the beginning of the creation. Before we came into existence on earth, the moon and the sun were already formed for us to have the system where we can figure the timing, figure the months, لِتَعْلَمُوا عَدَدَ السِّنِينَ وَالْحِسَابِ, so that you know the numbers of the years and know how to calculate things, how to measure things, how many days have passed, how many months have passed, and so on. So the Qamar is the reference for Sinin. Why is it the Qamar and not the sun? Earlier on, insan, before they started studying the stars and were able to figure some star signs, and through those star signs or the shapes in the stars, were able to determine solar months. Before they were able to do that, the only way they could figure month after month was through the moon. It was very simple, and it was out there. Some nations, they still use and have the lunar calendar. Others have abandoned it and moved on to the solar calendar, especially because the solar calendar coincides with the seasons. So it's if you want to know which month comes in which season, you want the hot month versus cold month and so on, you would have to use the solar calendar. You cannot use the lunar calendar unless you add something to the lunar calendar as an adjustment, which some nations did to maintain the solar calendar. For instance, the Jews, they decided at some point, in order to keep their months, their lunar months, they use actually the lunar calendar. But in order to keep their lunar months in line with the seasons, so that it's not changing. For us, for example, now we have the month of Ramadan coming in relatively good season, yeah? In the spring, I would say, it would be considered spring. Before it was in summer. And soon it will become, in a few years, if we live until then, it will become in winter. And again, back to, autumn, eventually back in summer, if any of us still around. Because for those things, for everyone, it takes 30-something years for a complete cycle. So half a cycle to go from summer to winter takes some 15 years, and so on. So for us, this is how the lunar months shift with the seasons. They're not the ones shifting. The seasons are changing because of the solar calendar. But regardless, our time in life in this world is not changing. Okay, we're going through the months. In any case, for the Jews, what they did, they introduced every 4 years, if I'm not mistaken, they introduced a month. Okay, they add a month. So that way they keep their lunar calendar in line with the seasons. So they just add a month. I can't recall what they refer to that month, but it's just an additional month so that they adjust the calendar. And there are some who suggest that Arabs did that at the time of Jahiliyyah. There is a concept in Quran, in fact, which is the concept of nasi. إنما النسيء زيادة في الكفر. Nasi was them delaying certain months. Okay, so they had a war and Muharram was coming, and Muharram for them was forbidden to fight. So what do? They postpone it. Okay, we'll have Muharram next month, so we can finish up what we started. Okay, or Rajab, for example. Rajab would come on its own, so it's often more so that they would delay Rajab. The Muharram, it comes after the Qa'dah and the Hijjah. So the Qa'dah was also haram for them to fight. So sometimes they will postpone. Okay, we'll have the Qa'dah later on. And that in Islam is haram. Quran says, إِنَّمَا النَّسِيءُ زِيَادَةٌ فِي الْكُفْرِ. To delay a month is increase in their disbelief. Why increase? Because wars that they started in itself is kufr. All of these things that they're doing is already kufr, and now they're doing it even further by continuing their wars and their bloodshed, despite the months that are haram or months that are hurum, and delaying the month just to make themselves feel better. They delay that month, and like they do the ceasefire short term to make themselves or the world feel better, and then continue. Nothing changes. In other words, they're not really looking for guidance or goodness. It's only a game that they're playing. So it is ziyadatun fil kufr. Quran says it is ziyadatun, it is increased in disbelief. Therefore, for those who are suggesting that Muslims used to do this or add a month or so on, then it is not accurate historically. Their controversy is because of the names of the months. Okay, so Jamadi, they say Jamadi refers to, when it's dry, for example. So Jamadi should come in summer. And Rabia should come in spring because the name is spring, Rabia al-Awwal, Rabia al-Thani. That controversy is, it's not necessarily it's not basically, it's not a strong argument to use it to say that this is how it's supposed to be, because the names could be borrowed and changed over time. So borrowed from the solar calendar. By the time the Arabs were naming those months, the solar calendar was in place and the solar months were named. So they may have borrowed those names simply to give some names, and those names don't necessarily carry much significance, whether it's Yamadi or Rabia and so on. It's just names that we call in Farsi, we say Qaradadi. It's just a contract that we decided that we agreed, it's an agreement that we agreed we're going to call this particular month Rabia, Rabia al-Awwal, Rabia al-Thani. And again, could be borrowed from other culture. Regardless, lunar months in terms of their usage, they were more used, and they were earlier than the solar month. And so, لِتَعْلَمُوا عَدَدَ السِّنِينَ وَالْحِسَابِ. Nevertheless, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us here that He wants us to be focused and concerned with time. لِتَعْلَمُوا. He did the moon with the stations, all the things that you see happening with the moon. This beautiful creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He did that. We said earlier in the previous ayah he says that إنه يبدأ الخلق ثم يعيده ليجزي. So the resurrection is so that he can reward those who did good with goodness. ليجزي الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات بالحسنى. So a good reference, if we go back to the previous ayah, since we brought it up, we said that he says he resurrects ليجزي ثم يعيده, he brings us back so that he rewards those who did good with goodness. ليجزي الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات. And then he says, as for والذين كفروا, as for those who disbelieve, those who are unappreciative, what happens? وَالَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا لَهُمْ شَرَابٌ. He doesn't say لِيَجْزِيَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا. So in other words, the purpose of creation, because if we go back to the beginning of the ayah, إِنَّ رَبَّكُمُ اللَّهُ الَّذِي خَلَقَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ, the purpose of the creation is the reward. And this is referenced in other ayat of the Holy Quran. He says, for example, وَلَا يَزَالُونَ مُخْتَلِفِينَ إِلَّا مَنْ رَحِمَ رَبُّكَ وَلِذَلِكَ خَلَقَهُمْ. That is why he created people. Why? For his mercy. He created people to give them mercy. He created the heavens and the earth, and he resurrects so that he can reward. So sabaqat, his rahmah has a superiority over the wrath. It is the purpose. He is Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. That is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So what happens with the other side? The other side is part of the justice, and it happens, I'll give an example, it will become clear. It happens as a result of people's actions, not because God wants that for them. A teacher teaches throughout the year, and he wants for every student to pass and do well. Yeah? Would anyone say we created schools so that we can, or we, established a school so that we can let some students pass and some students fail? It doesn't make sense. That's not why you made the school. No, we made a school to educate the students. And we're hoping that every one of them passes and every one of them does very well. That's why we established the school. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala established this whole universe so that he gives us rahmah. So we graduate and go to the gardens. This is why he created the universe. So the creation, لِيَجْزِيَ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. This is why, بِالْقِسْطِ. So this is what the purpose is. The other one is, unfortunately, some choose for themselves, and because of his justice, it's only fair that if they did not study and they did not pay attention, they failed their test. That is not the purpose. Again, back to the next ayah. He says, لِتَعْلَمُوا عَدَدَ السِّنِينَ وَالْحِسَابِ. The purpose of the creation of the sun in the way it's created and the moon in the way it's created, they're both there, لِتَعْلَمُوا عَدَدَ السِّنِينَ وَالْحِسَابِ. Perhaps although the reference for hisab came after the moon, when he says, وَقَدَّرَهُ مَنَازِلَ لِتَعْلَمُوا عَدَدَ السِّنِينَ وَالْحِسَابِ, is to suggest that that is more so what people would use. The moon earlier on was used, and much earlier, for much longer time of the age of humanity, or the time of humanity on earth, they used the moon for timing, and maybe they'll revert to doing that in the future. And now they're using solar. It doesn't mean that they'll continue. Maybe they'll find that it is more useful, especially if through polluting Earth we stop being able to see the stars very well, the dust that we're creating. Allahu A'lam. Nevertheless, لِتَعْلَمُوا عَدَدَ السِّنِّينَ وَالْحِسَابِ came after the moon being in stations. Nevertheless, both of them are there in that ayah. In other words, both of them could be the reason for sinina wal hisab. لِتَعْلَمُوا عَدَدَ السِّنِينَ وَالْحِسَابِ. And it is a reference to the significance of time and time management organization in Islam. He made the prayers for Muslims kitaban mawquta. It is a timed obligation. It is not open to you to pray anytime you want. You decide to sleep late and get up whatever time you get up and you talk to God at that point. No, you need to organize your time so that you get up for Fajr and talk to God at that time. Kitaban mawquta. You know who does not have organization and does not pay attention to time? It's not successful people for sure. It's people who don't have jobs. What happens in weekends? Obviously not for Muslims because they still have to get up for Fajr. Muslims' time should not be organized because of school or job. Muslim time should be organized because of his own system. We have our own system, we have to be organized. We get up, he made Nahara Ma'asha. Then the sun rises, you rise and you start your day. The night sets, you rest. Staying up at night is not recommended unless it's for a good thing like seeking knowledge, for example. Otherwise, staying up, like I've said it to people, although breaking cultures are difficult, they say movie night. I say, look, we'll make it movie day. Why movie night? Night is for sleeping. Sleep late, you ruin the next day. That's the reality of it. You sleep late and you ruin your basically days, day after day. One night that you wreck your system, it puts you out of whack for a good few days. Yeah, out of order. You have to reset your clock. Often, for those who don't have their Fajr, don't pay attention to their Fajr, when they don't have work, they sleep in. When they don't have school, they sleep in. But a Muslim rises. Yeah, they have to rise for their prayers. And it puts us in order. Cleans, because we have to pray. A Muslim is clean. A Muslim is timely. Should be, inshallah, we are. And we strive to be better Muslims as we mature in life, inshallah. So he says, لِتَعْلَمُوا عَدَدَ السِّنِينَ وَالْحِسَابِ, so that you are well aware and know the time and you measure things, you calculate things. How many years do I have in my life? Maximum this many years. Okay, what am I going to achieve in my life? How do I achieve it? Put your priorities on set your priorities right, put them there on a list, make a schedule for your life, and therefore, especially for youth, do not waste your time. You waste your days, you waste your time with games and things that don't get us far in life. And next thing is, time is up. And nobody knows when our time in this world will finish. Inshallah, we'll come to that in the coming ayat. Our time, our hayat in this life, each individual has their own hayat in dunya. So for me, dunya is not from the time that hayat dunya, for me, is not from the time that dunya was created. That has nothing to do with me. هل أتى على الإنسان حين من الدهر لم يكن شيئا مذكورا. Insan in general, when the universe was created, a long part of it, insan was nothing to be mentioned. That's insan, that's human beings, collectively. What about individuals? What about me? How much of the time of this life, dunya, belongs to me? Only the time I live in this dunya. This is why it's very, very important to put things in perspective, because we realize how insignificant. That is why it's dunya. It is so low because it is so insignificant, and it is not even something we know how long it's going to be. It's not. We don't have any kind of indication whether it's going to be my time in this dunya. Could be the 50 years, 60 years, 70 years, could be 20 years, could be less, could be more. Allahu A'lam. In this dunya, that's my hayat al-dunya. So hayat al-dunya fil akhirah, how can you compare them? Can you compare them? Akhirah, that is eternity, compared to hayat al-dunya. So important for a Muslim, for a believer, to, and especially one who reflects on the ayat of the Holy Quran, to be time-wise and have good time management. Anybody who wants to achieve in life, they have to have good time management in any field. You want to be a scientist, you want to be an Islamic scholar, you want to be a psychologist, you want to be an inventor, whatever you want to be, who is having a positive impact on this life, on this hayat al-dunya for humanity, continuous. One has to manage their time well and be timely and organized. لتعلموا عدد السنين والحساب ما خلق الله ذلك إلا بالحق. Further confirmation of the significance of that. He says he did not create that except by truth, for truth. إلا بالحق. It is not a game. In other ayat, he says, we did not create the heavens and the earth la'ibin, for us to have a game for God. It's not a game or fun. There is truth there. There's a purpose there. So عدد السنين والحساب are haq, are part of that truth, part of that reality, so that we're not wasting it. Being aware of it is to avoid wasting it. The less aware we are, the more wasteful we become. If we only have a birthday once a year, what happens? We only reflect on our life once a year. Yeah, that's what happens often. We have a New Year's Eve, New Year's resolutions. Yeah, and we have a birthday 1 year past of my life, and this in this hayat al-dunya, once a year. But the Imams of Ahlul Bayt, they tell us what? لَيْسَ مِنَّا, one who does not do hisab. لِتَعْلَمُوا عَدَدَ السِّنِينَ وَالْحِسَابِ is very related here. لَيْسَ مِنَّا, he is not from us. One who does not do hisab for himself every day and night. Once in his day and night. Best timing perhaps in the end of the day. Your day ends, reflect on your day. How did my day go? And decide for, that's why our scholars, our ulama, they say the process of musharata, muraqaba, muhasaba, and they could add, mu'ataba or mu'aqaba. All that process should be done on a daily basis. You start your day with some resolutions, musharata, decisions you made that today I'm going to be better, do better. And throughout your day, you are observing yourself, daily reminders, or not just daily, but throughout the hourly reminders, if you wish, having, or stations. We have prayers, are stations, daily stations. Throughout the day, we have prayers. Can I combine my salat, Fajr, Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib, Isha, praying at night? There was somebody who did that. I had in my high school a teacher. He was not so concerned, obviously. He says, we go to school, we wear shoes. It's difficult to take off those shoes, and sometimes we have leather shoes, so our feet are not tahir and so on. So I pray them all in one time. So I thought that was, an idea. So I was. Well, it was high school, so I was pretty young, and that was exciting. If my teacher did that, I could do that. So I went and had a conversation with one of my teachers. I was a teacher as well as the academic stuff at the time. So I had a conversation about that. And he said to me, would you want on the day of judgment, an example he gave, he said, would you want on the day of judgment for everyone's hisab to be going and they tell you, okay, you just wait. Huh? Just wait. Your 10 hasn't come. You know, it was very significant and related to our environment because I grew up in an environment that there was a lot of favoritism and a lot of connections. You know, if you know somebody, so if you go to an office to get your documents signed, if you know somebody, you go straight away. If not, they tell you, just wait. Huh? So you know, you don't even, you can't even queue and be in part of the queue until you know they feel bad for you and something happens, or you know you bribe somebody or something. In any case, so he said, would you want to be out of the queue and told wait, or would you want to be dealt with and admitted to your garden and so on? So you pray, okay, maybe you'll make it, but you'll have to be. So that was a good analogy, perhaps, but definitely did not, because in this dunya, connections are based on money, based on positions. In akhirah, it's based on a'mal, based on some statuses, musallin, al-qa'imin, al-shakirin, al-dhakirin. All these statuses are what give us a better position and place in akhirah. So again, it is very, very important to realize that these times that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made, the calculation of times that He made are for a good reason. إِلَّا بِالْحَقِّ مَا خَلَقَ اللَّهُ ذَلِكَ إِلَّا بِالْحَقِّ يُفَصِّلُ الْآيَاتِ لِقَوْمٍ يَعْلَمُونَ. In the beginning, I mentioned this tafseel of ayat. Tafseel, elaboration, fasala is literally from basically making some sort of a separation, some sort of division. So if I do fasl between two things, I put some on one side, the other on the, that's fasl. Okay, that is why the seasons in Arabic are also known as fusul, al-fusul al-arba'a, the 4 seasons, because they make some sort of a segregation and separation in the year. You have a year, you have.
Question.
Sure.
What does belhaq exactly mean in this? Belhaq and then belhaq, what does it mean in this?
Belhaq, literally, linguistically.
No.
Okay, so it could have. So he says, "Ma khalaqa Allahu dhalika illa bilhaq." He did not create that except could be by the truth or for the truth, for a truth. Okay, it could be any of those. And it's more likely, I mean, everything is created bilhaq anyway, and by the truth. He is the absolute truth, the only truth. Bilhaq in that sense. But also, bilhaq here most probably reference to the fact that it is not a game. It is for a truth. It is for for a purpose. Okay, for a true purpose, not just okay. We created these things. Okay, just it so happened. It was a coincidence. There are no coincidence in this world. There's a system. Everything is created. I mean, a series of accidents cannot bring about order. You cannot have a series of accidents bring about any order. Okay, it so happened that a lightning struck a tree, and next thing we have this beautiful desk. You say it doesn't happen. Okay, it simply doesn't happen this way. Okay, so order comes from truth, from the truth for a truth and for a reason. So it also has the meaning of the fact that the time is for a truth, for a good purpose. Okay, it's not that this desk was not made just to look good. It was made for a purpose. Okay, the days and time and Sinin and Hisab, all of that were not just done like this. Okay, just if you feel like it, you take advantage of the years and the months and the days. And if you don't feel like it, it's no big deal. No. On the day of judgment, one of the things that we will be questioned about is an umurihi, your time in this world. What did you do with it? You were given time. So time it is created by God for us with that order, the organization that He's done, so that we can utilize it, not waste it. And if we do waste it, we will be questioned about it. Wal-'iyadhu billah, we would say, I didn't do anything, or I was just playing games. كنا نخوض مع الخائضين. When they enter, those who enter in Saqar, they are asked, ما سلككم في سقر? Why did you end up in Saqar? قالوا, what was the first thing? لم نكن من المصلين. We did not pray, establish prayers. And we did not feed the needy. Feeding, very important, feeding. If there are hungry people around you, today's global village, and we're eating without any consideration, it's a problem. And so, and that we did not feed, and we just went on with our lives with the fun that people are doing. People are now, what is trendy today? We sit and go and watch things on our phones. Trendy things. Okay. What is a fun thing to do today? No, think about the bigger picture. God created you for a reason. You have a purpose in life. What is your purpose in life? I'm speaking to all of us. Please don't take this person. I'm speaking to myself and to all of us. A reminder. Because shaitan and shayateen al-jinni wal-ins are very, very strong and powerful. And they can easily distract any of us. We have a bigger purpose in life. We have a reason why God created us. Imam Ali alayhi salam says, Rahimallahu imra'in, God has mercy on a person who has the answer to these three questions. Where he came from, and why is he here? Where is he? Min ayna wa fi ayna wa ila ayn. He made it very brief, very simple. Where from, where in, where to. But what does it mean? Where in? What? The Mawlavi puts it nicely. He says, I didn't come by myself here. Man, the khud namada min jo. They brought me here for a reason. They put us, every single one of us. You ended up in the United States, in Florida, in Orlando. Why? Ask yourself that question. There is a reason. God wants you to be in this part of the world at this very time, this very moment, this time that we are in. That's what God wants. So find your purpose and go and fulfill your reason, your purpose, the purpose of your creation. Fulfill to the level that you reach your. They say in these from motivational speakers, they say be the best version of yourself. Yeah. What is that? It means reach your rushd, reach your maturity at that level. Rushd is maturity. At this level in your life, reach what is the most mature thing to do in this part of the world at this time? Think about that and fulfill that. ما خلق الله ذلك إلا بالحق يفصل الآيات. He explains and elaborates his signs. Now, يفصل الآيات لقوم يعلمون, for people who know. This could have two meanings. يفصل الآيات, as in the Quran, he elaborates, explains things in his ayat. Or it could be يفصل الآيات, as in the universe. He's talking about the samawati wal ard. He's talking about the days and the nights, or the sun and the moon. In the following ayah, he talks about the days and the nights. So this tafseel is happening outside. And he's speaking about it in the ayat of the Quran. Yufassilu al-ayat could be both. Could be. Some say it is referring to the Quran, elaborating, explaining, dissecting things in a way that becomes clear, it makes things very clear. Or it could be what you see out there in the universe, or what is more likely, both. Because everything in the universe is the ayat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Everything out there. Everything that you see, including you, are the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You know, this is clear from the Quran and the Hadith. Ahlul Bayt clearly said, Imam Ali alayhi salam, he said, I didn't look at anything except that I saw God before, within, and after. Everywhere. Everything is a sign of God. We should see God. He says, Besahros, Bengaron, Sahrot, Sabinon, Bedarya, Bengaron, Darya, Sodino. I think it's Baba Tahir, one of the Gnostic poets in Farsi. So I look at the desert, I see you. I look at this ocean, I see you. I look at the plains anywhere, Darodash. Everything shows me the signs of the beauty of you. The beautiful presence of God in everything. It's a beautiful, in fact, way of putting it, beautiful poem. So everything is a sign of God, everything. And the ayat of the Holy Quran are signs. They are referred to as ayat. Yeah, they are signs. So nufassilu al-ayat, it is explanation, elaboration, expansion. All of this could be in reference to ayat, could be in reference to the universe, or it could be both. In other words, everything. And that's more likely the fact, لِقَوْمٍ يَعْلَمُونَ, for the people who know. It takes some level of knowledge to understand the ayat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The ignorant people, jahil, the ilm is the opposite of jahl. Yeah? What happens to jahilin? They live their lives, they don't see anything. They're blind. Amiyat aynun. Imam Hussein alayhi salam says, an eye that does not see you observing over is a blind eye. Blind people, zombies walking. Seeing the beauty around, not seeing God is blindness. And so it takes some level of knowledge to even see the ayat of the Holy Quran. We said both are ayat. To see the ayat of the Holy Quran, it also requires some level of knowledge, true knowledge. Because there are some people who read the Quran and they simply think of it as, and that's what Arabians did, those who didn't believe. They thought of it as beautiful poetry. So what did they see in poetry? The collection of letters. Remember what we said earlier? Speech is not about collection of letters and sounds. And just because they rhyme and sounds good, their rhyming things sound good. It's nice. But that's not the purpose of speech. If a poet puts together some beautiful letters and sounds very rhyming, but no meaning. Doesn't, like, you just see, okay, it's a rhyming collection of words, but there's no meaning, or very shallow meaning. That you won't think of that poet as creative and really nice. You would think of somebody who's speaking of big things, and that's one of the beauties of the ayat of the Holy Quran, that it is the same alif lam mim. We said this surah started with alif lam ra, the same letters that you're familiar with, sounds that you make, but the meaning is something you cannot even make something like. Challenges, and nobody can make anything like it. يفصل الآيات لقوم يعلمون. The next ayah he says, إن في اختلاف الليل والنهار وما خلق الله في السماوات والأرض لآيات لقوم يتقون. And another level of the signs being for a certain people. So ilm leads to taqwa. Proper ilm leads to taqwa, consideration of God, realizing that this universe, looking at the universe or looking at the ayat of the Quran, ayat of God in the universe or ayat of God in the Holy Quran, realizing that there is a creator, there is a purpose, and there is haq, illa bil haq, makes one consider God. And that's what taqwa essentially is, to consider God in your life, in your decisions, in your speech, in everything that you say or do or react, in anything and everything, you're considering God. That is taqwa. And so the next ayah, after introducing another gift from God, another aspect of God's blessings and mercy and gifts and signs, the ayat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says these are signs for those who have taqwa. They went one step further, that they understood, they have the knowledge, and now they have taqwa. لِقَوْمٍ يَتَّقُونَ. And if we go back to the beginning of ayah number 6, another introduction of some of the signs of God in the order He created in the universe and in our, especially our globe, our Mother Earth, as they refer to it. He says, إِنَّ فِي اخْتِلَافِ اللَّيْلِ وَالنَّهَارِ. اختلاف, inna, indeed, surely, it's an emphasis. We said in the previous ayah, made the lunar stations or the sun and the moon for you to figure the years, the months and the years, and have some order in your timing. Now, further in the timing, further significance in your timing, He made the day and night. So now He's introducing the concept of al-layl wal-nahar, the night and the day. Is there a significance for the night coming first? Some they suggest it's because the night is the correct, or the default, sorry. The default status or state is what? What's the default state between day and night? Which one is the default? Huh? How? Okay, if there's no sun, what happens? The default is the night, okay? Most of the universe is actually dark, yeah? The universe is mostly darkness. Yeah? So it's actually the creation of the light from the sun that brought the day. Okay, so the default is what? The darkness, the night. Okay, so that is a suggestion that's why He said inna fi ikhtilafil layli wan nahar. Okay, and layl, nahar is not yawm. Yawm refers to the day, or it refers to the night and day, the 24-hour, but nahar refers to the actual daytime. Okay, the actual lit up. Nahar comes from the time that is lit up. Morning. Like the time that there is light. Okay, and so you cannot blame people who do not get motivated when it's too cloudy in some parts of the world, because there's not enough sun. Because sun gives the motivation. It's the reality. Okay, so there is وَجَعَلْنَا اللَّيْلَ لِبَاسًا وَجَعَلْنَا النَّهَارَ مَعَاشًا. Nahar is the daytime with brightness, with light. Okay? So اختلاف الليل والنهار, the coming of the night and the day after each other. خلف and Khalifa. If you look at the term Khalifa and Khalafa, they're all from the term Khalf. Okay? And ikhtilaf is also from the term, this is the beauty of Arabic. One, the source, khalafa, khalf. You can use it for many, many meanings, and they're all related somehow. So Khalifa, the term of Khalifa, the one who comes as the representative after a person. Why Khalifa? Because he comes after him. Okay, the Khalifa is after the individual. That is one term. Khalf is behind. Okay, the Khalafa is to follow. Come following. So ikhtilaf comes from that concept that one follows the other. Okay, but there are other meanings that come with it as well, and they could be also within the term. For example, we say the Ahlul Bayt and their places where they are living or even buried. Mukhtalaful malaika. You heard this term? Or mukhtalaful malaika in the ziyarah. Okay, meaning what? Malaika, they in and out. Huh? They are frequently, now often in the translation, they may use frequent, the place where, or the individuals who are frequently visited by malaika. Okay, why? Because it is in a way that there's always malaika there. One leaves, the other one comes in. In the shrine of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, thousands and thousands of malaika are always there. As they leave, others are coming. Okay, there's a mukhtalaful malaika. Okay, so this is the day and night have the same thing. One leaves, the other one comes. Okay, and then they're actually entering into each other, and that reference is also given in other ayat of the Holy Quran about the day and night. يولج الليل في النهار ويولج النهار في الليل, makes the night penetrate, enter into the day, and the day enter into the night. It's not a sudden, it's like not a click of a light button. Okay, full brightness, full darkness. He doesn't do it that way. He does it in a way that is easy for our eyes, easy for our body, easy for the universe. It's beautiful. Again, has it creates so many beautiful phenomena that we see out there. For instance, when we look at the early morning, okay, some people like to go to the ocean or to the mountains to watch what? Sunrise and also sunset. Beautiful. That time, from when it starts, the light starts coming, and then eventually when the light starts going away, that's wuluj, yuliju. That is ikhtilaf, they come following one another. Inna fi ikhtilaf al-layli wal-nahar, and whatever God created, that example is given as one example, but everything else that God created, وَمَا خَلَقَ اللَّهُ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ, everything that He created in the heavens and the earth are the signs, لَآيَاتٍ لِقَوْمٍ يَتَّقُونَ. It is signs for a people who have taqwa. Again, we said, first level, يَعْلَمُونَ. Next level, it is through ilm that we can get to taqwa. Without knowledge, we cannot reach the higher levels of taqwa. We need knowledge. That's why he says, إِنَّمَا يَخْشَى اللَّهَ مِنْ عِبَادِهِ الْعُلَمَاء. It is those who have knowledge who have the right fear of God. Only those who have knowledge. And it's amazing how this ayah, for one who has no knowledge, could read it wrong and understand it wrong, because the format of the sentence is not the normal format in the Arabic sentence. The normal format would be إِنَّمَا يَخْشَى الْعُلَمَاءُ مِنَ اللَّهِ. But it starts the other way. إِنَّمَا يَخْشَى اللَّهَ مِنْ عِبَادِهِ الْعُلَمَاءُ. Okay, so Allah here, although they are doing the fear, not God, but God comes in the first part of the sentence because of Jalala of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, more significance, the Jalala. and which he is the maf'ul in the sentence, but he comes before the fa'il, who are the ulama. Interesting and very unique, one of the rare cases of this swap, which is not the norm in the Arabic language. And without knowing the signs, if somebody says innama yakhsha with Allahu, and it becomes a problem, meaning God fears. Okay? And that's what some ignorant ones would understand from, they would wonder, why is God? I've heard this, it's not an exaggeration, I have heard it personally, a question, why is God fearful of the scholars? So obviously this is a misunderstanding of the ayah because of the lack of knowledge. So it takes knowledge to get to the higher levels of taqwa and consideration of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the presence of God. If there are questions? Yeah.
When you're talking about night and day and sleeping during the night and being awake during the day, most of our programming is at night.
Mhm.
Is there any-
Yeah. Okay, so again, if it is for seeking knowledge, okay, we have no problem. So if the program is for seeking knowledge and so on, a little bit of socializing afterwards is not a big deal, but to extend that part, and so for seeking knowledge itself, no problems at all. We have the hadith that Imam Ali alayhi salam started giving tafseer of Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, and he had not finished with the ba, and it was almost Fajr time. So it was time for him to pray Salatul Layl. He said, okay, that's enough. So he spent from Isha, after Isha prayers, giving tafsir of Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim on the ba, in the name or with the name. He was continuously giving tafsir of it until it was almost Fajr time. So again, for seeking knowledge, it is a rewarding act. So it is like worshiping. For seeking knowledge, and those who are working, for example, in perhaps hospitals, saving lives and so on, these are acts of worship. There's no problem. But for entertainment and some non-significant issues, it is best to avoid those things. It's not haram, but it is makruh to stay beyond Isha for non-significant matters and non-scientific and knowledge-seeking matters. It is not best. So if the programs are about seeking knowledge, by all means. If it extends to other activities and those activities basically overtake, then one should avoid it. I hope that answers. Yeah.
Question like Shahada, we mentioned in the prior session, Shahada, ask them to seek death.
Yeah.
It's very sacred, but we've seen it in the common world being misused. So how do you say set some guidelines to it so that it maintains its sacredness and it's not an easy way out, or it's not a tool of misuse?
To wish for death. So first of all, life is a gift from God. Okay. And so no one should be unappreciative of God's gift. One should not وَلَا تُلْقُوا بِأَيْدِيكُمْ إِلَى التَّهْلُكَةِ. It is forbidden to, with our own hands, cause our own death, expose ourselves to danger in a way where we are killing ourselves, in other words, إِلَى التَّهْلُكَةِ. So this ayah includes obviously any kind of suicidal acts or any neglectful acts of one exposing themselves to irreversible harm. So where do the ulama say that smoking is haram? Because they figure that it causes damage to our body in a way that's irreversible and brings death quicker. Okay, there are so many death related smoking related diseases that cause death, enough to say that this is part of tulqi bi'aydikum ila tahluka. And other things could be there. In fact, I remember when I was young, there was a question whether or not car racing was permissible, because it could be that. Now, obviously, that is not necessarily part of that. Otherwise, driving the car could be a problem in itself. But yes, any kind of exposing oneself and with your own hand causing. So what happens in the case of shaheed and shahada? That is another level of sacrifice, which is solely for the sake of God, not because I'm done with this gift of God. God gifted me life, I'm done with it, I don't want it. No, that's lack of appreciation. It is God who decides when it's right for you to go, and when it's right, how long you should have. Imam Baqir alayhi salam asked Jabir, he said, كيف أصبحت? How are you? He visited him when he was older. Jabir passed during the life of Imam Baqir alayhi salam, the Imam, or perhaps the early life of Imam Baqir alayhi salam. Nevertheless, he said, I have come to a point in my life where I prefer sickness over health, and I prefer old age over youth, and I prefer death over life. Why? He says, obviously, his purpose is that those times and those situations are closer to God. When one dies, it's closer to God. When one is sick, remembers God. When we're healthy, forget. When one is older, when we're young, they call it jahala, after one's desires and so on. When they get older, they are more conscious of God. So that was his motive, why he preferred those things over the others. And the Imam says, this is good, but us Ahlul Bayt are not like that. He said, us Ahlul Bayt, we are pleased with whatever God wants for us. If he wants illness for us, we prefer illness. If he wants health for us, we prefer. If he wants death for us, so the motive should be pleasure of God. Okay, if so, for the sake of God, one is doing something that could be dangerous, but God is pleased with it. God is happy with it. Okay, not simply I'm skydiving to have some adrenaline rush in my system, and then if the parachute doesn't open down, okay, why are you doing that? I mean, I'm not saying don't do that. Would I do that? I don't think so. But if I have to do it to save lives, to do something good, not to spend so much money and resources over some fun activities, the world is moving in the wrong direction, by the way. People are spending so much over unnecessary or activities that have served no goal, no purpose for the betterment of the lives of others, for something good. If you have to save lives, okay, go ahead, do it. If you're training to do it so that you can save lives, go ahead, do it. But just for the sake of it, anything for that matter. If I'm doing something to serve humanity, which is what God loves, serving humanity, and in the process one loses their life, that is something that is beloved in the eyes of God, and it's the highest when one exposes themselves to death to please God and to serve humanity. That is the highest and the best type of death. So I hope does that answer? Time for breakfast, inshallah. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu wa sallam ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ahli baytihi al-tayyibin al-tahirin. Allahumma salli.